Hello and welcome to my show Indus Cuisine, and I'm your chef Basim Akhund. We're back with a new episode from the heart of Pakistan. Today's recipe is very easy and it's very interesting. The recipe's name is Dalcha Gosht. When you talk about gosht in Pakistan, gosht basically refers to meat. When we talk about meat in Pakistan, it refers to mutton, lamb, or you could say beef. Now, this recipe comes from the Hyderabad Deccan area. It's pre-partition, which means this recipe was very famous when the Mughal Empire and all the other small empires were ruling the subcontinent. This recipe was a very important, or you could say an integral part of the Hyderabadi royal families and their royal kitchens. Whenever you talk about Hyderabadi cuisine in Pakistan, the first thing that comes to mind is flavor and a lot of effort that goes into preparing this dish. But obviously, because today we live in a very fast globalized economy and people do not have like 6 to 7 hours to cook something, so we use the pressure cooker or cooking techniques that could speed up the process. Back in the day, or even if you call some of the old chefs from those old families who still work in Pakistan, they will preferably cook this recipe on wood fire in a pot which is made out of brass, and they will cook it for like 6 hours overnight, and they will start usually at the break of dawn. This recipe is very easy, and what are the ingredients? I'll just give you a quick rundown. So you need some lentils, but when we talk about lentils, you need lentils which comes from chickpeas. We also call it dal chana in our language. Then you need some mint leaves, you need 2 small onions, preferably white or towards the lighter red side. You need some lemon juice, red chili powder, cinnamon sticks, turmeric powder. You need some cloves. These are a lot of cloves. I'll be using 7 to 8 maximum. Then you need some coriander seeds, salt to taste. You will be requiring some ginger, garlic, some cardamom, which should be green, clarified butter around 200 grams or 150 grams. Then you need around 350 to 400 grams of yogurt. So these are the ingredients, and then I'll be using half a kilogram of mutton. Mutton is the best form for this recipe, but if you would like to have lamb in the West, you can also replace mutton with lamb. Okay, these are the ingredients. So now what I'll do first and foremost is I'll just quickly put the mutton in the pressure cooker and cook it for, you could say, around 5 to 6 minutes once the whistle blows. Now, what is the reason? The reason is that when we get the broth, we will save the broth, and then we shall put the dal in the pressure cooker for around 15 minutes on high heat. So we'll do it step by step. First, what I'll do is I'll bring the pressure cooker in front, and once it's over here, we'll just add the mutton, and we'll put around a liter of water. Okay, this goes in. So I'll add the mutton first. I'll just do it over here in front of you. The other thing I'll do is I'll saute the meat in some clarified butter first. Why? Because that way you could say you get an interlocking texture on top, and then the ingredients are cooked properly, especially in the form of meat, and it doesn't lose its flavor. We call it sauteing, and in our Urdu language we call it bhunna. So you just have to coat the mutton with the clarified butter on high heat in the pressure cooker without the lid, and let's just cook this for around not more than 2 to 3 minutes. So till then this is cooking, what we'll do is we shall just take out the water from the lentil. As I've told you, for this recipe you need to really cook the lentil to a point that it starts getting really soft, mushy, and it starts breaking down. So always soak the lentil for at least 1 hour before you use it. So just drain the water, and you have to always wash it multiple times. This is done. Now, as you can hear the sizzling, I will just start mixing it. Okay, this is done. You can see the color of the mutton has changed. I'll show it to you on the side camera over here. This means that it has a nice layer on top, and the flavor will be locked because of the butter. Okay, we'll add around, let's say, half a teaspoon of salt. Then I'll add just 2 small sticks of cinnamon. I'll just take a small piece of ginger. When I'll cut it from my paring knife, I'll show you how much. These 2 small slices will go in. Then you need just 2 cloves of garlic, which I'll just cut into half and add it into the cooker. This is done. Mix it up once more. And now add around a liter of water. This jug holds around 1.5 liters. So I'll just add a liter and let the remaining go on the side. Mix it up. Remember, this water needs to be saved. You will not throw away this water because it has all the flavor you will be using in your recipe. So now just give it a lid, which is over here. Pick it up. Press it down, and once the whistle starts blowing, count 6 minutes, not more. Why? Because the mutton will also be cooked separately with the lentil. Okay, so now I'll just shift it over here. Increase the heat, reduce the heat over here. It's a little too windy in Islamabad today, so I've kept the stoves a little towards the high and not towards the pilot. Why? Because it keeps shutting down, and that becomes a problem. Remember, if you're cooking outdoors and if you see that the wind is too high, increase the stove's heat. Why? Because half of the heat is going on the side, and that will result in the meat not being cooking properly. Okay, so now what we'll do is we'll pick up a wok. This recipe will be cooked in a wok. Why? Because it's something which will have a thick texture. Increase the heat. So while this is happening, what we'll do is we'll pick up the pieces of garlic. I'll just put the heat on medium, not too high. Pick up my chef knife, and I'll just press the garlic pieces down just like this in front of you, and then we shall finally chop them. Bring it together, pass your knife slowly and gradually. Mix it up. You want it to be really fine. And now toss this in the pan or the wok, but before that add the clarified butter, which we will be using in this recipe. Try using clarified butter, and if you cannot find clarified butter in the market, replace it with sunflower oil, or you could also use soybean oil, but try not using butter. Why? Because butter has a complete different flavor. Add all of the garlic in. Add just say a pinch of salt for now, not too much. Why? Because we'll keep adding salt as we go. And once we fry the garlic, let's say towards the light brown side, then we'll add the ginger. But the ginger will go half and half, not right now completely. We'll just slice it half, keep the rest over here. I'll just cut it into thin slices, and we shall just smoothly dive in. This is done. Add this in the wok, pick this up, and finally slice this part also. Fry it to a point that the garlic and the ginger get a little towards the light brown side, because when the clarified butter will get this nice flavor, this aroma, then only we shall start going towards the next step, which is adding the onion. So till the time this is cooking, what we'll do is we'll pick up 2 small onions. The root is out. The root is out from this one, but not this one. So I'll just take the root out, and we shall finally slice them. Cut them into half. Keep it over here. Cut this into half, and just go as close as you can. Why? Because this needs to be really fine so that we can get a nice light brown texture on the onions. This is done. Okay, as you can see that the garlic has turned light brown now. So we'll add the onion, which is towards the room temperature side, and that will bring down the temperature of the clarified butter, which would be good for the recipe. Reduce the heat. Pick up the onions, and now start mixing them. What I'll do first is I'll give this a lid. Once I've given it a lid, when it gets translucent, then I will cook it so that it goes towards the light brown side. So what have I done by now? I've just added the mutton in with just some salt. After that, what I did was I just added some ginger, garlic, and some cinnamon so that it gets a nice flavor. Then I just added in the other place, the wok, basically I added some salt some onions and some ginger and garlic. So now till then this cooking, we'll go for a short break, and once we're back, what I'll show you is that the mutton would be ready. I'll bring the mutton out and I'll tell you what to do next. Keep watching Indus Cuisine. Welcome back. You're watching Indus Cuisine and I'm your chef Basim Akhund. During the break I did nothing. I just waited for you, and the only thing I did was that the mutton had cooked, so I took it out. It's over here. I'll keep it in front of the camera for you. And on the other hand, what I did was that the broth which was ready, also which came from the mutton, I saved it. You will never discard the broth. This is the flavor we'll be using, and we will get the gravy out of the broth. On the other hand, what I did was the dal, the lentil I had, I just added to the pressure cooker and I just let it cook. Why? Because it's going to take 15 minutes, so I only had 7 minutes during the break, so I added on the pressure cooker. It's been 5 minutes, so give it another, let's say, 10 minutes or so. And as you can see, the onions are nicely brown, so what I'll do now is I'll start cooking and I'll tell you what to do next. The first thing what you need to do is you need to take the, let's say, green cardamom, and then we have to bring the seeds out. Before that, what I'll do is I'll add the bay leaves in the wok so that they fry and give out a nice flavor. Just keep them together and press them. Now what will happen is that you'll see that the seeds are going to come out. Just tap them like this and save the seeds. Why? Because all the flavor is in the seeds, and just, you could say, 20% would be in the skin. So we will be adding the seeds only. Why? Because that has all the flavor. As you can see, the seeds are over here. What I'll do is I'll just slowly and gradually pass the knife through so that some of them are nicely cut. When you cut them nicely, what happens is it will release more flavor. Do not waste even one of the pieces. Why? Because it's filled with the aroma which we require, and add them to the pan. Now mix it up properly and let's start cooking. Okay, this is here. The next thing we need is we need the coriander seeds, which we shall put on the board, and then just take this and press them a bit. Now why am I doing this? It's because so that the seeds start opening. I do not want to crush them or convert them into a powder, but I want the seeds, or you could say the pods, to split so that I get a better flavor. And when you do this in front of yourself, on the table also, you can automatically smell it. It's so powerful and it's filled with flavor. So why am I doing this? If we were doing it the traditional way, what would happen would be that you would cook it very slowly and then bash it inside. But now, because we can do it in this way, we won't bash it and we'll just slowly add it, and we will save more time and energy. Manual labor should be reduced as much as you can, keeping the taste intact of the real recipe. Remember that. Okay, now increase the heat and let's start cooking. We need to add around 6 pieces of cloves. I'll just add it over here. We shall add some turmeric, also known as haldi in our language. We shall add some cinnamon sticks. I'll just start piling everything on the side when I'm done using it, and then I'll add some red chili powder. This is inside. Now what I'll do is I shall just mix it so that I can fry the spices properly to get the best flavor possible. You can see that the turmeric will give it a nice yellow flavor, which is all natural. And then what we'll do is we shall allow the seeds of the coriander to split, which you can slowly and gradually hear as they are splitting. Now what I'll do is I shall just pick some mutton up and place it into this. Now I've always taught you one thing, that you have to slowly and gradually keep adding the water in the wok. Place it in and increase the heat. Now when I say to place it or add it very slowly, it means that you have to do this so that the water evaporates, it gets extra heat, and also so that the meat gets a nice texture and temperature in which it can fry. Now what I'll do is I'll just pick it up and place it on the side. Keep the lid up so that the mutton fries. I just cooked the mutton for, you could say, around 60%, and now the remaining 40% needs to be cooked in the oil and the water which is in this. Now what happens is, if you just add all of the water, the eventual output of that would be that the water will eventually start boiling the meat. So when I just add a little bit of water, or you could say the broth, in the extra, or you could say the added clarified butter we've put over here, it gives it a nice effect of heat and it evaporates quickly, giving it a nice frying effect on the side also. So keep doing this, and slowly and gradually just try reducing all of this to the half level, and then we shall add some more. So add around, let's say, half a teaspoon of salt now, and towards the end we shall add the lentil. Mix it up. This is done. As you can see, the oil is coming on the top. Now I'll take another ladle and I'll add this over here. So till the time I'm doing this, which will take another 5 minutes, we'll just clean up and then tell you what to do next. So as you can see, I've added half of the broth in this. Now what I'll do is I'll add some yogurt, and I'll start letting the yogurt sweat into it, and so that the flavor mixes in really well. So I'll add 2 cups of yogurt, but 1 cup at a time, so that the yogurt's moisture evaporates, and then I'll add more. Why? Because I don't want it to get really creamy and saucy. I want the oil to always split and come on the top. As I told you, this recipe traditionally took a lot of time, but now as you can see, as time has passed, it has become much easier compared to the past. Slowly and gradually just take it through, and let's give it another 2 minutes. Okay, till then this is cooking, what we'll do is we'll just take the dal, or you could say the lentil, out of the pressure cooker, and then I'll show you what happens next. But let me tell you first, it's very easy. Keep it going very slow with all the steps which I've told you. Maintain them and you'll get the best form of dalcha you've ever had following this recipe. So as you can see, the lentil is ready. I need to show you something. I'll just pick up a piece in front of you, and I'll just mash it. It's so soft. Okay, you need to cook it to a point that it gets really soft like this, and then now on high heat you need to mash it first. Mashing is very important, and as I told you, I've kept half of the water on the side. Why? Because the broth, because this is all the flavor, and this will be needed. I'll pick up this and I'll just hold this like it, hold it close to myself, reduce the heat to medium, and I'll just start pressing it. You have to press it to the point that it becomes into a complete mushy paste. Do not use a food processor because you won't get the best texture with that. You have to bring it forward and keep mashing it till you get the perfect texture. Now increase the heat to full so that it starts evaporating the water. We need the water. Why? Because if it's too dry, it will keep sticking. So now what I'm doing is I'm basically moving the ladle while I'm pressing it down like this, so that I get the perfect texture. I will not be adding any additives or anything to make it thicker in texture. The only thing that is making this into a creamy, nice, flavory texture is the lentil that is mashed. Remember, when you mash lentil, what generally happens is you get the best texture, you get a nice thick texture, which people usually attain from adding flour. On the other hand, if someone has gluten allergy, remember one thing, this recipe is something you can enjoy. Why? Because you will not need any form of bread with it, because the lentil is already very thick and will give you a nice filling, you could say, replacement for that, and you won't have to add any other form of thickening agent which would be related to flour. Now let me show you the texture again. As you can see, it is nicely melting. Now we'll just press it even more, and as you can see, it is almost done. You could say labor intensive, but this is how it's done. Okay, now what I'll do over here is I'll keep this on the side, and I'll just take 2 pieces of lemon, keep them here, and add it in the lentil. I want this nice flavor to go in. And then I'll just throw it. I've always done this so that the pits stay in my hand, and now I'll mix it. This is done. Now let's switch the stoves, bring this over here. The mutton is nicely cooked. Now the only thing that is left is to properly mix it. But for that you need to remember one thing, that you need to add another ladle of broth into this, so that I just make it a little runny, so that when I add it in the mutton, it mixes really well. This is done. Now slowly and gradually add this over here. And this is done. Keep this over here. Pick this up. Keep it at the back. Why? When you've used something completely, just keep it on the side. Now what I have to do is reduce the heat and just slowly mix it. You can see small pieces of lentil in it. If someone wants, what they can do is they can completely mash it or keep some of the pieces there. Why? Because that gives a very nice texture. Now what I'll do is I'll just slice the ginger and then add it on top. This is the last step of this recipe today. This is done. This goes in. And I'll increase the heat again. Increase it to full, mix it up, give it a lid and let it cook for 4 to 5 minutes on low heat. So now cook it for like 4 to 5 minutes on low heat, and till the time it's cooking, what I'll do is I'll clean up and I'll show you the final look of the recipe. Don't go anywhere. Keep watching Indus Cuisine. As you can see, today's recipe is ready. I've cooked for around, you could say, 4 people. It's a very easy recipe, but it's just a little labor intensive. But if you follow all the steps, you can enjoy this recipe at home without cooking for hours for this recipe, which was traditionally done. I'll see you in another episode of Indus Cuisine. Take care of yourself, lovely people. Bye-bye.